to the Under 24 podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and I am joined, as always, by my co host, Jason. What's up, man?
Nothing much, bro. How are you?
Doing good. But today we have a special guest on the show, Alvin, who's a great friend of mine. So he had joined the show today as a guest.
What's up, guys?
Hey. So,
What's up?
today the NFL released their protocols for the players and how they can practice on Sunday. So the NFL said that the players can attend the practice facilities, but they must practice outdoors and wear a mask. They will also enter through automatic doors just for the players and staff, and all the frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned 3 times a day. The NFL advised the teams to conduct virtual meetings when possible. They will also be 6 feet spacing between the lockers. And something that is going around right now is that the preseason might only be 2 games instead of the ordinary 4. So, Jason, did you think the NFL made the right decision with these rules in place?
Yeah, I did. I feel like these protocols will greatly reduce the chance of players catching COVID-19. And I also really like the 2 preseason game change that they're planning to make. I feel like the preseason games aren't exactly necessary, especially in this time, even though the players won't get enough experience trying to blend in with the new schemes and things like that. I feel like it's okay just having 2 games. I also think that the protocols will ensure the safety of everyone, including players, staff, coaches, everyone like that. And from the protocols, I think it's very well planned out. It seems to be very effective. And I like how Roger Goodell, the commissioner, has made the protocol flexible as the research and knowledge grows about COVID. What about you, Alvin? What do you think?
I had to disagree on this with you, but I like the thought out process here. But in the end, football is still a contact game. You're still gonna make contact with people. It's gonna end up spreading. But I liked how they're trying to limit this process. But I gotta disagree on you this one. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think this was the safest and easiest way for them to start playing again. I mean, the NFL is being a little bit more safe than other leagues like the NBA and the NHL, but that's because they have more players. So they have the risk of more players getting the virus. So I think they're a little bit more safe, and I think this is the first step in making the season start because the NFL is planning to start as scheduled. So I think this is the first step towards that.
Well, one thing Jason said was that the preseason to 2 games. I kind of like it, but sometimes people take the preseason for granted because the preseason is where you can see all these undrafted free agents, all these 6 round talents, all these players that weren't drafted in the first or second round prove themselves into becoming into that 55-man roster. That I think that's a really important factor into this NFL roster decision.
I agree with you, Alvin. I don't think it's the best scenario to have only 2 preseason games, but I feel like teams will be able to cope with it. Obviously, what you said, we're going to discuss later, so let's get on with it.
Yeah. So how much of a difference do you think these rules make to the players?
Well, I think it makes it tough for rookies. It obviously depends on who you are, but it's definitely going to make it harder for rookies as they have to learn to integrate with the team system and scheme. And along with, like Alvin said, the preseason is taken for granted by a lot of people. It is a chance for players to prove themselves, but also that's what training camp is for as well. The less preseason games there is less of an opportunity, and that might be a problem. That will be a problem for teams as they try to put the best players on their roster. And I think you can expect boring or worse than normal football for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, obviously because the rookies and new signees for each team have had less of a chance to be able to fit in with the scheme. Once the third or fourth week of football is over, then I feel like football will be back to normal. But one thing, some people that it won't change too much for is the veterans on the same team with the same coach. You look at Green Bay, like Zadarius Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, people like that. They're already into the scheme. They already know what's going on. Another team like the New Orleans Saints, they have Sean Payton as their coach. They've been having him for years. They have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas. All of those people are already integrated into the scheme and the system. So as you can see, it will mostly affect the rookies and players on new teams and players whose teams fired and hired new coaches.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. One thing I think, like you said, all the coaches, all these players are into these game plans. They recognize it. But one division that will struggle in this area will be the NFC East. Three of these teams have new coaches. The only team that doesn't is the Eagles. Eagles, Eagles have Doug Peterson, but otherwise, all three teams have new coaches. That will be a struggle for rookies and veteran players to succeed in. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is gonna be kind of hard and kind of be a new normal because the NFL is probably going to have the players wear masks and stuff because it is such a contact sport and it's so many players playing. And I think that little change could just make a big difference, not just for not the receivers and the running backs, but like players on the defensive line, like tackle and snapper. Those players could sweat and they could faint or something possibly. But like y'all said, the coaches and the players, those the connection between them is very important, especially right now because the older players know the players that have had the coaches. They know what to expect and the plays and everything, and the younger guys don't. And the players and the teams that have new head coaches.
Yeah, I agree with what Alvin said, especially with the NFC East. We all know that the Dallas Cowboys have Super Bowl aspirations, but because of this, they might lose a couple games in the early season, and that might cause them to drift away from those expectations. The Eagles, I believe, have a leg up in this in terms of the coaching staff that they already have experience with, as with the other three teams have new ones. So I feel like that might be a problem for the other three teams. But we all know the Giants and the Redskins are rebuilding. This is really a big deal between the Eagles and Cowboys rivalry.
Plus the Cowboys are even in the middle of Dak Prescott contract. That's even a bigger case. So I don't
Yep.
think,
Yep.
yeah, Dak Prescott's gonna be holding out. I don't think Dak Prescott's been attending any of the Zoom meetings. So I think the Cowboys are gonna have to rely on Andy Dalton if Dak Prescott decides to hold out. But that is very unlikely because Dak Prescott said he's not afraid of the franchise tag.
Yeah, so that's something else to watch also. But we're gonna move on from the NFL and go to the NBA. And right now is last week the NBA decided their format, the 22 team format, and there were six additional teams included to that 16 team bubble and that are going to Orlando in that bubble, and they can fight for that eighth seed in the playoffs. So, which team do you think is underrated to make the playoffs and the eighth seed this year?
Well,
Uh,
for me, I think it's the Kings. The Pelicans and Blazers, I don't think are underrated. And Spurs lost LaMarcus Aldridge, and the Suns aren't making it. I think the Kings have multiple players that can score 20 or more on any given night. You look at Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Marvin Bagley, Jabari Parker. So many people who will be able to score on any given night. And then you also have to look at the role players. They have Harrison Barnes, Yogi Ferrell, Kent Bazemore, Harry Giles, and Richaun Holmes. If they can just stay injury-free, they can cause a lot of damage in the play-in for the eighth seed.
yeah, but this team has never made the playoffs in about 15 years, and I think last year was their best uh, chance to make the playoffs, and now they have a new head coach. So do you think like that plays a factor with Luke Walton and not?
I don't think so. They've played around 65 games, and I feel like by then you're pretty much integrated with the system of the coach. And I feel like the NBA and the NFL coaches, that's where coaches are really a big factor. When you look at the MLB, it's the general managers. In the NBA, it's mostly about the players. I don't think the coaching scheme is a huge deal, except when the team stinks. But other than that, I don't think that's going to play a huge part in this.
Okay, Alvin, what do you think?
I gotta disagree on this. I don't think the Pelicans are a team that's been talked about a lot. I think the Pelicans are a very underrated team. They have Zion, who had an amazing start to his career, averaging around 23.6 points per game. Brandon Ingram averaged 24.3 and was an All-Star this year. And then so Zion has amazing talent. Brandon Ingram is a future. So you might have two future All-Stars on that team. You can't even forget about Lonzo, Derek, and Drew Holiday. I haven't even talked about those players. Lonzo has been averaging 7 assists and he's been averaging 12.4 points per game. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for him, his standards, they're pretty good. Plus his 3-point percentage is off the charts. I mean, like people been making fun of him for his broke jump shot, but this is like he's been improving. I gotta admit. And then you still have, I mean, like I know no one talks about him, but Derek Favors is averaging almost a double double. Like that's crazy. He's been averaging 9.9 rebounds and about to have 9.2 points per game. He's that close to averaging a double double. I got Suns is a underrated team. Like I get that, but like I
But
don't think
do you think the Suns are making the playoffs?
no I
The
don't think
Phoenix Suns.
yeah.
Uh,
But the Kings are okay, but I don't know if they can execute because of the lack of experience.
yeah, but like I like your points and stuff, but I don't think the Pelicans are an underrated team. I think
Yeah,
them,
me neither.
yeah, I think them and the
Go
Portland
ahead.
Trailblazers are one of the favorites to take that 8 seed from the Grizzlies. So I agree. I completely agree with your points and stuff. And now all those players are very good, but I don't think that team is an underrated team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Alvin, you just proved my point. The Pelicans are not an underrated team. You said Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson can both be future All-Stars. I think they could be potential superstars. And when you have two potential superstars on that team, along with a handful of role players and a All-Star caliber player in Drew Holiday, I don't think that's an underrated team at all.
I mean, I think the reason why my point of them being underrated is because they're unexperienced at all. I don't think the closest person on that team that's been to a playoff team is JJ Redick. I think he has the most experience in the playoffs, and he's not. I mean, like he's not a leader on that team.
I believe it's a leader in the locker room, but I still think the Pelicans are underrated. The Kings, I don't know if they might execute, but of all the teams, you have 5 teams: the Spurs, the Pelicans, the Trailblazers, the Kings, and the Suns. Suns and Spurs are not making it. Then you have to choose between Pelicans, Kings, and Trailblazers.
I mean,
Trailblazers are definitely not underrated, but you
the
know.
Spurs could make it if DeMar goes back to his old ways, where he was a killer back in the day.
Mm,
A
Yeah, but
Raptor? Nah,
they
bro.
yeah, but he did. They don't have enough pieces around DeMar
the,
DeRozan now
That is
that
the thing
Aldridge
is
is
that
out.
they could make it, but it is really hard because they're I think 5.5 games back of the 8 seed,
Yep,
and they
yep.
almost have to win every single game just to get to a play-in tournament.
Yep, especially with the fact that they've been out for 20 weeks. They have young and inexperienced players as well, and they don't have a veteran leader other than DeMar DeRozan who can really take over that game. I don't think they're going to have a chance to really make the playoffs.
I think as a team that's underrated is a conference you didn't talk about was the Eastern Conference, and they only have one team that's not in those 8 seeds, which is the Washington Wizards. I mean, you look at their team. after the All-Star break, Bradley Beal has been on fire. He's almost had 30 points in every game, and there's rumors about John Wall coming back, so that might just improve their roster. And if you look at the standings in the East, the Magic are the 8th seed right now, and they're not a very good team. They're not really well orchestrated, and the Nets are right above them. They lost Kyrie and KD for the rest of the season, so the Washington Wizards can take that 8th seed, but it is hard for them because when you look at their schedule, if the NBA goes back to the normal schedule and tries to uh, duplicate that schedule that they had before the season got suspended, they will face the Bucks twice, the Celtics twice, and the Philadelphia 76ers and Oklahoma City Thunder. So they have a very hard schedule, but I think they could make the playoffs and um, go against the Magic in a play-in tournament and get the 8th seed.
Do you really think that? I mean, the Washington Wizards are like they're 5.5 games back. They have to win almost like 7 out of 8 games to even have a chance at Orlando, unless Orlando loses a bunch of their games.
Yeah, but Orlando is not, like, let's be honest, Orlando is not that good of a team. And
Neither is Washington at this point.
Washington, they can come back because they have Bradley Beal, who I think should have
I
been an
mean,
all-star.
look, Bradley Beal doesn't have weapons around him. I gotta agree with Jason on this one. Bradley Beal, he's good. He's good. He's second ranked in most points per game, but you gotta
But
think.
you can't win with just one player.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron did it, but Bradley Beal's not a LeBron caliber type. He's not. He's not the guy who's
Yep.
gonna carry them to a 7-game series and win that thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
I agree with them.
I think the reason why the Wizards can make it is because the East is not a very good conference, and you look at the teams above them, it's the Nets and the Magic, and now the Nets they can be good because they have been a really good team the past couple of years, but the Magic they've just been a team that's barely making the playoffs every season, so I think they could. But like y'all said, he's not LeBron and he can't win these 7 to 8 games. But I think if it all goes well, they could make the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're only playing playoff caliber teams. There's not going to be any easy schedule, so I don't think they will make the playoffs. That's my take.
Okay, so which teams do you think are the favorites to take the 8th seed? Let's start with you, Alvin.
I gotta go. Uh, I know for sure the Grizzlies won't hold on to that 8 seed, but I think the Trailblazers might take it because the Trailblazers have Dame, CJ, Hassan. They're stacked. I don't know if the Grizzlies can execute because they have a rookie as their point. I mean, rookie Ja. I don't think he can. I just don't know. I don't think he can take that all that pressure on him just to maintain that 8 seed. I think the Trailblazers will equally match up with with LeBron and make them fight for the next round placement.
What about the East? Who do you have?
Um, I don't know. I think the Magic will win. I'm sorry, Jeremy, but I think the Magic will win. Will keep that 8 seed, and I think they will do it. I think they'll make the Bucks fight for their. I mean, they'll probably win 1 game, maybe 2 if they're lucky, but I don't see them going that far. But if the Wizards match up, no, they would get swept. I think. But it's gonna be hard either way. I think the Buck. It doesn't matter who the 8 seed is. The Bucks are gonna win anyways.
Yep, I agree with Alvin. I'm taking the Trailblazers to win that 8 seed. I mean, it's pretty obvious. As much as John Morant has shown that he wants the NBA return with his TikToks and everything, it's obvious that the Trailblazers are going to win in the 8 seed unless more injuries come. I mean, Yusuf Nurkic and Zach Collins are coming back, and Nurkic was a beast when he last played. When you look at their team, they now have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Hassan Whiteside, Yusuf Nurkic, Zach Collins, Carmelo Anthony. They have so many pieces. And they have other role players like Trevor Ariza and Gary Trent Jr. There's so many deadly pieces that will allow them to take the 8th seed. I really think that the hiatus, the pause in the NBA season was a blessing for these Blazers teams.
One thing I think you think Yusuf Nurkic could be a quality starter after this injury. I think Hassan Whiteside has proven himself as a good center in this league.
Yeah, I think Hassan Whiteside kind of revived his career because last
Yeah,
year in Miami he wasn't doing that good and he got shipped off to Portland and he's been doing good. And you don't know about Yusuf Nurkic because he hasn't played in over a year, so you don't know if he's gonna come back to the form he was at when before he got injured.
He could be a quality six man, but I don't see him as a
yeah,
starter in this league.
yeah. I don't. I agree with both of you. I think not playing in over a year because of that catastrophic injury that he had, I think it may be a problem for him as he comes back. But they still have 8 games to play. I feel like he'll be able to get in the rhythm of things. He won't be a starter immediately. Maybe once he gets integrated into more games, he may be. But for now, I think Hassan Whiteside will be the starter at center while he becomes a sixth man.
And do you agree with Alvin even for the East? Do you think the Magic can still hold down that 8 seed?
Yep. I mean, the Wizards don't have enough pieces to contend into the playoffs when the Magic already have the 8th seed, being 5.5 games back. I don't think the Wizards will make the playoffs. The Magic will either get swept or will only win 1 game against the Bucks, and it'll be pretty simple after that.
But I gotta give props to the Wizards. I mean, Bradley Beal has taken that team, and I haven't expected them to win that much games because there's no pieces around Bradley Beal. Who
Yep.
knows if John Wall
So
even comes back to his like full potential like he was before he was injured.
yeah, his injury, they've reported that he won't be playing this year, but I don't think you should give props to the Wizards. I think you just give props to Bradley Beal. You know what I'm saying? The way he's been able to carry that team, it's incredible. It's too bad they haven't been
Yeah,
able to get the wins to represent it.
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, he should be. I don't want to say he's like MVP talks, but like, there's no way. I don't remember LeBron averaging like around 50 points a week. I mean, like just 1 week he averaged 50 points. I don't remember LeBron ever doing that.
yeah. I think Bradley Beal has like made himself a very good player in this league, and he's still young. I mean, he's what 27 or something. So I think
26, something like that.
yeah. So he's still young and he can improve his game. So, and he said he wants to stay with the Wizards even though there's trade rumors going around. But for the 8 seed, I have to completely agree with you guys. I mean, you look at the West and there's really 2 teams that are contending for that 8 spot, and that's the Portland Trailblazers and the New Orleans Pelicans. And when it comes, why I picked the Trailblazers is because when it comes down to these clutch situations, Portland Trailblazers have been in that situation. I mean, you can look at the playoffs, like Game 7 versus the Nuggets. They beat them out, so they know what that situation is like to be in that situation of almost losing and going home for the rest of the season. So I think because of that experience, they can go to the playoffs. And the New Orleans Pelicans, they haven't had that. They have a couple players like JJ Redick and Derek Favors that have made the playoffs, but they're valuable players like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram haven't made the playoffs, so I don't think they could make the playoffs for the East. Like you guys said, I think the Magic can still hold it down, but the Wizards are creeping up. I think they could, if they play a playing tournament, they could go in and take a game before the Magic take the second game. But there's one kind of there's something that the NBA has been not really talking about. There's rumors about NBA wanting Zion in the playoffs because they want more money. So you might see Zion go to the playoffs and just bad like referee calls for each game, just so the Pelicans can win and make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Zion is someone who can bring that a lot of money. We're talking about like LeBron James too. He's that much hype. He had that much hype. You know how we all know how much LeBron had, much hype LeBron had in the league in high school. This is the same hype we're talking about when Zion was in college. He was getting. I mean, there's even lawsuits about colleges. I mean, Duke paying him, Nike paying him, all these companies paying him before he even made it to the league. I get that the NBA wants Zion in that league because Zion in the playoffs because they want that money. But what happened to the good old basketball? What happened to those? Like equal cause. Those. Nowadays it's just about all that popularity, money,
Yeah,
and all that. But I just want to see good old basketball. That's all I want to see.
yeah. I mean, the you look at Zion, he's having absurd numbers. He's averaging like 20 points or something, and he's only been in the league for about a month. And they are a very young team, and the NBA does want Zion in the playoffs. But like you said, I just want to see normal basketball. Some of these games, like the Portland Trailblazers versus the Utah Jazz, that goaltending game, I think that's like an example of like them trying to give a game to another team, which in that case was the Utah Jazz.
Okay, well, let's say they do not get Zion into the playoffs, and the Portland Trailblazers do. Do you think they could challenge the Lakers and cause some worry for the Lakers, who have pretty much locked up the number one seed? Do you think they'll cause any problems for them?
So the Pelicans.
No, the Trailblazers.
Yeah, the Trailblazers, I mean, you look at last season, they've been all the way to the Western Conference Finals. So they had playoff experience. But the Lakers are just too much for them because the Trailblazers have injuries. You look at Rodney Hood, Zach Collins, Yusuf Nurkic, they just go down with injuries. And they could take about couple games maybe from the Lakers, but the Lakers probably would win.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it'll be hard, but I don't know. Maybe the Lakers choke or something. Like LeBron's known for, choking in the playoffs.
Or he
He's
could
never,
get injured. We never
yeah,
know.
yeah, anything can happen.
Okay.
Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis gets injured, LeBron isn't. LeBron is screwed. I just can't. LeBron relies on Anthony Davis.
The
I
thing
mean,
about LeBron though is that he's never lost in the first round. So I don't think we expect him to lose in the first round.
this year's been crazy. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I guess the Blazers could take a couple games from them, but I don't think they'll cause enough problems to potentially win the series.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. So we'll have a new like type of series, I guess. So we're gonna talk about a team that did not make this 22 team format. So there's 8 teams, and we'll talk about them every week until the season starts. And we're gonna discuss things about how they should improve their record. But so for the first week, we will start with the Charlotte Hornets, and the Charlotte Hornets have been a team that haven't made the playoffs that often, and a team uh, that's not very good. So, what do you think this team can do to improve their record next season and hopefully make the playoffs? Jason?
Well, I'm sorry to all the Hornets fans, but I don't think there really is anything they can do. I mean, they have so many bad contracts on decent or declining players. You see, Batum's making around 25 million, Rozier's making around 17 million, Bismack Biyombo and Tyler Zeller are each making around 15 million a year, and that's not going to cut it if you're the Hornets. If you want to win, you see Bismack Biyombo and Tyler Zeller and Nicholas Batum. They're all in their older years. They're aging. Tyler Zeller is in his age 27 season, but he's not going to get better as he progresses through the years. Rozier may be able to make some impact, but he's not worth 17 million a year. As you can see, there's a lot of young talent on this team, like Miles Bridges, Devontae Graham, but they need to be developed. PJ Washington, they all need to be developed. They're not exactly the type of players who can take over a game. They don't have enough role players. The Hornets are kind of in a mess situation right now. They don't really have a clear star, and although Devontae Graham is good, he's not a very good player that can lead them to the playoffs. And I just think they don't have the pieces to compete for the playoffs right now.
I To be honest, I can't believe the Charlotte Hornets even got 23 wins because that team. I don't think that team was supposed to win that much games. Obviously there's the cap like you mentioned, Jason, those cap about Nicholas Batum, Bismack Biyangos, all those players. But I think Terry Rozier, he's been playing good, but not up to his like money. What he got, he's not playing up to that. I mean, I don't think you shouldn't have paid. Hornets should not have paid that much money to Terry Rozier. I mean, he's not playing up to that potential. I feel like you should get rid of these contracts. Charlotte Hornets should get rid of these contracts. They should rid of Nicholas Batum, all these players. Maybe let Terry Rozier write his contract out and sign him to a little bit less, and then you get ready for 2022 free agency because all these players, LeBron, Kawhi, Steph Curry, if they don't resign, they're out on the free agent market. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets, they have a bunch of rookie contracts unless like otherwise, except for Nicholas Batum and all those players, they have a bunch of rookie contracts. They can sign at least 2 players if they get rid of all these players.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason why they've been such a good team, I mean, you look at the beginning of the season, you think that the Hornets would be the 15th seed in the East and the worst team in the NBA, but they've had 23 wins, and that's due to Devontae Graham. He's become a very good player, and since Kemba Walker left, he kind of took that starting role, and he's become a really good player. And I think what they need to do is they need to develop their young players like Devontae Graham, PJ Washington, and Malik Monk. If you develop those players, I think they could become good, solid, or elite players. And I think that's what the Hornets need to do. And like both of y'all said, their cap situation is kind of bad. They have old and expensive players like Nicholas Batum and Willie Hernan Gomez, but I think they should try to trade them to a team that's not really contending. Like you look at this year, the Atlanta Hawks, they were all their players were almost on rookie deals, so they took Evan Turner's and Alan Crabb's huge contracts. So I think that's what they should do. Even if it's just for a second round pick, they should try to get at least something out of those players. And I think what they the most need to do is they want Charlotte a place for other players to come play because you look at their history, they haven't had that much of a good that many good players in except from the draft. So I think what they should do is they should make they should try to make the playoffs next season. So when that 2021 or 2022 free agency comes around, that they can snag. Not I'm not talking about a LeBron James or a Kawhi Leonard, but maybe like a guy like a solid elite player like a Zach LaVine or a Kyle Lowry, a guy that can still play and still is good, but is not is not a superstar type player. So I think that's what they need to do. They need to make Charlotte a place for players to come play.
I mean, they don't need a lead superstar, but they need someone who can score the ball. That's something they struggled in this year. They were dead last in scoring. I mean, you can't do anything about that. You can't have Devontae Graham or Terry Rozier, players that haven't even they don't have experience about carrying a team. You can't have them scoring like 25 or something like that, crazy numbers like that. You can't have them do that. You need a scorer on that team for you to elevate to the next level. I mean, that's what I say.
Yeah.
Well, quick question. Do you guys think that Devontae Graham will win the most improved player, or will it be someone like Brandon Ingram?
I think that Devontae Graham has established himself as a really good player. I mean, but the thing about the NBA is that they don't really count second year players to be in the MVP and most improved player like conversation or to win it. It's only happened a couple times, but you look at all the players that are probably in that like that conversation to win the most improved player, and most of the players are on their second years, like Bam Adebayo and Devontae Graham. The only exception, like you said, Jason, was Brandon Ingram, and I don't think he will win because the NBA hasn't really uh, there hasn't been winners that were in their second year. So I think someone like Brandon Ingram could win it.
Okay. Aside from Bam Adebayo, Devontae Graham, Brandon Ingram, do you think there's any other candidate who could really have a shot at winning MIP? Alvin, what do you think?
I think I know it's a little bit weird, but I think Trey Young could win it because Trey Young. I mean, he wasn't like y'all remember last year in the what do you call it in the summer league. He was breaking all his shots. No one expected him, and then he proved himself. He was in the MVP conversation in the last half of the season. But I mean, he didn't even make All Star. I mean, and then this year he becomes a starter in the All Star game. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I think the thing about Trey Young is that he's an excellent player. He can score and stuff. But you look at their record, and he hasn't really shown that he can carry a team to these to a good amount of wins. You look at Brandon Ingram when Zion Williamson was out, he still took that team to a decent amount of wins until Zion Williamson came back. So I think that's why Trey Young is not really in that conversation.
Also, about mentioning Trae Young in the All-Star game, I believe that the only reason he didn't make the All-Star game is because he didn't play on that All-Star level until after the All-Star break. If he would have played a little earlier, like at the beginning of the season, like that, I think he definitely would have become an All-Star, like John Morant had the chance to become.
Yeah. So with this, the Hornets, do you think they should make any drastic changes to their roster?
Yep, I believe they should trade all those terrible contracts. You look at Nicholas Batum, Terry Rozier. I don't think there's enough patience to have Terry Rozier on because of the fact that he hasn't played to his money's worth. Then you look at Tyler Zeller and Bismack Biyombo. All of them are making above $16, $17 million a year. And once you're able to trade those contracts to places like, as you said, the Atlanta Hawks, you'll be able to have tons of cap space. And that'll be really beneficial when you're trying to sign players who will help you get to the playoffs. And the second thing that you do is find a good coach, probably a college coach that'll help them and bring the players' morale up. And one of the main things that I think they should target is to collect picks, to collect as many assets that you can with all the players that you're trying to trade, so that when the draft class, like the 2021 draft class, which is super deep, comes up, you'll be able to draft some of the best players in the draft.
Yeah, but I like your points there. But the thing about the Charlotte Hornets is that you talked about the draft and stuff. You look at their past drafts. You look at the selections they made. Number 2 pick, they picked Michael Gilchrist, and now he's on the Mavericks, and he's not getting any rotational minutes. So I think that the Hornets shouldn't try to like draft, because you look, the draft history hasn't been great these past like decade or two.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but with the new management and with the new management pieces in, I feel like they've made some better draft choices. And along with that, the 2021 draft class, it's basically impossible to miss because there's so many different players with superstar potential that if you have at least one pick in the top 15, you'll have a potential superstar in that draft.
Yeah, Alvin, what are your thoughts on the Hornets?
I think they should build around Devontae Graham, and I don't know if Jason would like this, but I think they should build around Terry Rozier also, because Terry Rozier and I, I don't know if y'all forgot, but Terry Rozier, I don't know if it was last year's, no, 2 years ago, 2 years playoffs. He was amazing. That was the year when he called Eric Bledsoe, Drew Bledsoe, and then Eric Bledsoe didn't even know who Terry Rozier is, and then the very next game he went off. I mean, like, I think Terry Rozier has a chance not to be like a superstar, but at least a good player. I mean, you build around those two players, you can get something special. That's what I think.
Yeah, but the problem is they both play the same position, especially with Devontae Graham being undersized. And Terry Rozier, I'll admit, he did have a good run at the postseason 2 years ago, but he's had opportunity this season, and he was outplayed by, guess who? Devontae Graham. So I don't think it's worth it to build around him, especially when you're trying to build around someone like Devontae Graham, because they play the same position And it's been reported that Terry Rozier is not exactly happy in Charlotte. So that may cause a problem to try to build around him as well.
Yeah, but the thing about Terry Rozier is, like you mentioned, that he's earning about 17 million. But you look at his salary, every year he's going to earn less money. So, but I think they should keep Terry Rozier. I mean, they signed him to, I think, 3 years or something, and they just signed him last year. So even if they tried to trade him, I don't think many teams will want to get him, a player like him, because he is making that much money, and he's to other teams he's more of a sixth man type player. So I think they should try to keep him, and they should try to trade their older players like Nicholas Batum and Willie Hernan Gomez. They should just try to get possibly anything for them, because you don't want them just to walk for nothing, because next year they're probably not going to be even on an NBA roster. So you want to get at least something out of them.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
but go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. Like I said before, they need more offensive weapons. That's just something I think they need. They don't need they don't need like a Zach Levine or a Kyle Lowry, because those are facilitators. They're not scorers. They're more of defensive side or passing, playmaking, all that. They don't like to score. You need a scorer on that team to win at least for them, because they have no scorers on that team at all. I mean, you can count Devontae Graham, but he's been only averaging 18 points. You can't do that to win a game. You're not gonna be able to win a game with that much points.
Yeah, and you look at their team, they're not that good defensively, because Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier, they're kind of undersized, and they can't really play defense that well. So I think they should try to get a guy that can get stops and score, so they can compete in the playoffs.
Yeah, but Jeremy, I need to talk about your Willie Hernan Gomez thing. I don't think it's exactly necessary that they had to trade him. I mean, he's only making 1.6 million a year. That's not going to get you much if you try to release him. And he's only 26. I think he still has a decent amount of potential. Like I said, he's not one of the biggest parts to their team, but it's not necessary that he's an essential part of their trade options.
Yeah, but they have young players like PJ Washington and these bigs. So I think these other players like Willie Hernan Gomez, even though he's not making that much money, he's not going to be in the rotation for as long as he wants. So I think it's better for them to trade him for a team that will be willing to play him and develop him.
Well, I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the depth chart, it's usually Cody Zeller and Cody Zeller, yeah, Cody Zeller, then Bismack Biombo, and then Willie Hernan Gomez. Um, I don't think, because we're looking to trade both Cody Zeller and Bismack Biombo, and because of that, I feel like Willie Hernan Gomez could be a starter on this team, which
Uh,
isn't very good.
I don't think Bismack Biyombo is on his last year with contract, so they can just re-sign him to like something like 3 million or 4 million. So they don't have to necessarily trade him.
I mean, there's nothing else you can say about that team.
Yeah, they're just a team that you're kind of confused about when you look at them from the outside in, but you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Oh,
there really is no specific direction they're heading in. It's like the Pistons last year. They were trying to get to the playoffs. They did make the playoffs, but they're not very good. They're mediocre. So in those terms, I feel like that's the same way the Hornets are, except I feel like they're even worse because of the contract situations.
yeah. So with that, the NBA is still in mind, and 8 teams looking that are not in the 22 team format. They're looking towards next season. And when you look at next season, there are many teams that could have a big jump in wins. So, which team do you think can make the biggest jump next season? Alvin, we'll start with you.
I would say Warriors, but they're just dealing with injuries. But One team I think is the Atlanta Hawks. They have all their pieces set. They just have to execute. I have to give it up for GM Travis Schlennick for building around Trey Young and drafting really good. I mean, getting John Collins was a huge steal. I mean, it wasn't a steal like you got him at like around a 15 pick, around like a steal, but it was a good draft pick for him because he's like a top two scorer for them. And then also getting Clint Capella on that team, I think that's huge for Trey Young because now, I mean, like that's huge because now you have a star player, like kind of a star player, a decent, a really good center on that team because Trey Young needed a little bit of more help, and now you have that with Clint Capella. And then now, I mean, Kevin Herter is a good role player to have. You still have rookies like DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish on that team who haven't had those points. John Collins, like he's been averaging 21.6 points per game, but no one talks about him. And they were the worst team on defense too. But now they have a great center to block shots. I mean, that's all. They have a center in there to like protect the paint. I mean, now you have a good defense. I mean, like you wouldn't go straight to saying they have a good defense, but now they have a defense that can actually stop players instead of just letting people score. I think that's one of the main problems that Atlanta Hawks had this year. That's just their defense.
Yeah, I think that the reason why they don't get talked about much is because they are a team that's very low in the standings. They're I think 14th or 13th. That's why I think they don't get talked about much. Like you said, John Collins is averaging 20 points, and I agree with you on most of your points that you said. The Warriors, I don't consider them as a team that could make a big jump because they have injuries, but that they did develop their young players, and they could be starters or solid role players. So I think the Warriors can contend season. So it's not a team that we don't expect to uh, ma- make a big jump. But I think there's a couple of teams that could make a big jump. Like you said, with the Atlanta Hawks, they're very young and they made a good trade for Clint Capella. And I think all they need is just more defense and veteran players to develop those young guys and to teach them like what it's like to be in the playoffs and stuff. But another team that is very good, that could be very good next season, are the Timberwolves. You look at their team; they have two former All Stars in D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns, and they have young players like Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver, and they haven't really been like really elite, but they are still young and they can still develop their offensive games. And you look at other players, role players like Malik Beasley or Juancho Gomez, they're both really good. And I think Malik Beasley he has averaged the most points in his career with the Timberwolves. So if they keep him and that solid group of guys around him and just develop their young players, they can make a big jump next season.
Well, for me, it's obvious that the team to pick would be the Golden State Warriors, but because it's so obvious, I'm not going to choose them. A team that's not as mentioned, however, is the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans are in the same situation the Nuggets were in 2 years ago when they barely lost out in the playoffs. They have a lot of young talent, but that talent is inexperienced. And now that they have a one more year under their belt, I feel like they'll improve significantly more next season. When you look at them, they have a couple young stars, including Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson, especially Zion Williamson, and Jackson Hayes along with that. You also have good role players, such as Jackson Hayes, then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you also have good veterans, such as Derek Favors and J.J. Redick. All of those players will have a significant impact in how their season goes. And I believe that from a fringe playoff contender, they can become a third to seventh seed in the West.
The thing about the West, though, is that there's so many teams competing, especially next season. You're gonna have the Warriors make the playoffs. You could see teams like the Portland Trailblazers go back into the playoffs. So it's gonna be hard for the New Orleans Pelicans to be a 3 to 7 seed. They might make the playoffs, but I'm not saying they absolutely will.
Okay, but I see your point. But if that's the case, I don't think it's good. I don't think the Timberwolves are making the playoffs next year. I don't think they're going to make a big enough jump. I understand the D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, but those two are terrible defenders. Karl Anthony Towns is not exactly motivated. His motives are not exactly winning. It's more about money and stats, according to what we've heard in the past couple months. And their front office and their coaching staff is a mess. Like, it's been so inconsistent. I feel like Gerson Rosas has been doing a better job, but so far they haven't had a good staff over the past few years. And I feel like the role players. I understand Malik Beasley can become the third option, the third option star for the Timberwolves, but I don't feel like there are enough pieces around the Timberwolves to do very good next year.
Yeah,
I
but
don't think. Yeah, I don't think Malik Beasley will be their third scoring option. I think Jarrett Culver would be a good player. That rookie, he's shown potential of what he could be.
yeah, the thing about the Timberwolves is that they're still very young and they can develop their young players, but so they do have a very good draft pick probably this season, so they could snag a very good player that could make a big impact on them.
I mean, same with the Warriors. The Warriors might be scary if they get a good pick in the lottery. I mean, they're stacked. They'll have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson coming off from injury, Draymond Green. You have all those players, and they might get another rookie. It's probably going to be a good rookie too.
Yeah, the the thing about them is that they're gonna be so much into the salary cap because they're gonna have to pay Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. So that takes
Yeah,
up.
but they have all that young talent that'll enable them to deal with those salary cap issues.
Yeah, they have to trade the player like Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green because they're not that good anymore, especially Draymond Green. He's
I think Andrew Wiggins fits the system. I just don't like Draymond Green. You find Draymond Green for a bunch of picks or something like that. I think that would be good for the Warriors, so they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
they can improve their bench. All
yeah.
that.
From my sources, they've been saying that Draymond Green, they will be looking to put him on the trading block. It's not he's not someone that they're willing to trade automatically, but if the right deal comes, they'll be listening.
I think they should trade Draymond for a guy that is a center because they haven't had a really good center since Andrew Bogut when he was with the Warriors. So I think they should try to
Yeah,
get.
but I feel like Marquise Chris can step up into that role. I mean, he's revived his career as many others have in Golden State, and according to another one of my sources, the Warriors have said that they're comfortable with Marquise Chris as their starting center.
I mean, now you have. I mean, one another reason to trade DeMarcus. I know it's kind of off topic, but Draymond. Another reason to trade Draymond. You already have Eric Pascal. I think he's proven himself as a good role player. I think he could be a potential starter on that Warriors team.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
get what you're saying.
the thing about Draymond is you could package him and like a pick in the future for a guy that can be a elite player, and a player that comes to mind is Rudy Gobert. And now the Jazz might not want to trade him to the Warriors, but the salary cap matches and stuff. And if you give up the right amount of assets, you could the Warriors could get Rudy Gobert and be a deadly one.
Yep. And from what I've heard, um, I think from what I've heard, the Warriors have been looking to trade their very high pick this year and the Minnesota Timberwolves toply protected pick next year, and one of their current players for a potential star in the and future assets. So I think that might be a big useful part of their trade requests.
Yeah. So with that, with the let's go back to the biggest, which a team that can make the biggest jump next season, and let's go to which team do you think could make no improvement at all, or they could just jump up and become an amazing team.
Well, put it like that, and it's a boomer bust situation. And for my team, I pick the Hawks. They have all the pieces to make the playoffs, but they have all the reasons that will enable them to not make the playoffs. I mean, they're the Hawks. And so far, the past couple of years, the Hawks have proven that sometimes their players don't really know how to win. And although they have a good coach and some good players, that might be a problem because, as I said, they're the Hawks. Now, I have to give credit to their GM, as Alvin said in the earlier question. Their GM has done a very good job building around Trae Young, and they have all the talent needed to make the playoffs. In fact, people even thought they were going to make the playoffs this year, but for next year, they have talent that gained experience this year, such as Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Kevin Herter, John Collins, and they have veteran leaders to help along the way, including Dwayne Dedmon, Clint Capella, and Jeff Teague. With all these players, there's a real shot that they can make the playoffs in a not-so-competitive East with the bottom three seeds, and I feel like it's very possible for them.
Yeah, Alvin,
I,
what do you think?
I think I gotta go with the Kings. Even though they in the 22 team format, I don't think they will be able to make the playoffs. But just like the OKC Thunder, I don't think anyone expected them to make the playoffs. Like as like a fifth seed. I mean, I think the Kings have potential to do that, but it just depends on how all these young players play. They don't have any experience. They have good backups, that's for sure. Rashawn Holmes is an up and coming player. He's been showing potential. Marvin Bagley could be a future All Star. I mean, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox. They have a big three going on there, but they just have to execute and become what we always thought they were. I mean, Bielitsa, Farrell, Bazemore. Those are pretty good backups too. I mean, you can't even forget about their rookie Kyle Guy. Even though he hasn't played a lot, he showed potential in college in Virginia. I mean, he averaged around 16 points in college, and then he eventually won he took his team to the Final Four, and he eventually won that championship. I mean, I think, as I said, experience is a problem. I don't know if Luke Walton is a good coach
Yeah,
for
that
them, because
Yeah, I don't know why they fired their previous
yeah,
coach, Dave
yeah,
Jordan. That was a
yeah,
bad
because
move.
2 seasons ago they were about to make the playoffs, and then they just fired their coach and hired Luke Walton, a guy that hasn't had much experience in the playoffs by himself as a head coach, because he's only coached the Lakers who haven't made the playoffs even with LeBron last season. So I don't think that was a good fit for for the Kings. I think they could have just kept David Yoder in there.
Yeah, yeah. Alvin, what do you think is, just curious, what do you think is the biggest downfall that's possible for the Kings that would prevent them from making the playoffs?
I think it's just. I mean, there is no downfall for this team. The least they could go down to is like at least fighting for the eighth seed. I mean, there's no I know the question is a boom or bust situation, but I don't see this team like failing to lose. Because if De'Aaron Fox is gone, you still have Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield. They'll help you, but I don't think they'll win that much games. The lowest they could probably go to is like a Wizards. I mean, I don't like a Wizards record. That's what I'm talking about. But I don't see them. I don't see them going to like I don't see them losing that much games, like a lot of games. But the thing is, if you lose one of those players, I think this whole team's gonna fall down.
Yeah,
De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley. If you lose one of
If you
those,
lose one of their core players?
yep,
yeah, I think that's what's going to limit them, especially this season. They lost, I think, Marvin Bagley like twice this season,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what could limit them because they don't have that. They do have solid role players, but most of those players are coming off their deals this year, like Bogdanovich and Bazemore and Farrell. Those players are all coming off their contracts, so I don't know if you can even re-sign them for how much they want, and even if you don't with that core guys, Bagley, Heald, and De'Aaron Fox, that you can hope that those players don't get injured because Marvin Bagley has been injury prone these past 2 seasons.
Yeah. So as we can all see, they have all the talent and the ability to be there. They just have to execute and be in the playoffs. They just have to execute to actually make it.
Yeah. So my team, I know we're all over the place, but I think a team that could have a huge jump next season is the Chicago Bulls. I mean, this season they were expected to make the playoffs, but because of Jim Boylan, they haven't really made that the playoffs. They're really low. They're I think 12th or something in the East. But I think that there's been rumors going around that Jim Boylan has parted ways with the Bulls, but it's not official yet. So I think that's why they could become a really solid team. You look at Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr., Larry Markkinen. Those are solid pieces that you could build around. And Kobe White has developed into that a player that um, developed into a really nice player because ever since or 2 weeks before the NBA season got suspended, he was putting up 30 points or 30 points something like that in back-to-back games. So and he has proved to become that starting point guard. So if Jim Boylan is fired, and I think this team could be very good.
Well, the one problem I have with the Bulls is that their players don't like it there. I mean, there's this clip of there was a game. There was 10 seconds left, and Jim Boylan called a timeout.
Yeah,
And Zach LaVine was using some expletives of how angry he was with losing.
yeah, the thing, but that wasn't really because of losing. It was just because of Jim Boylan. I think that's if
Hmm.
if they fired Jim Boylan, I think the team spirit will go up.
Yeah, but another problem is, like I said, there's so many people, players that hate the fact that Chicago hasn't been a very good team lately. I mean, Lauri Markkinen, he's very close to requesting a trade, and since he's such an integral part, although he's regressed these past couple of seasons, he's still a very integral part of their postseason aspirations. And without him, they could be in for a longer rebuild than they expected.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's rumors going around that they said that Larry Markkinen was happy because they hired a new GM who he thinks can improve their record by making these small moves, not huge moves, but like small moves
Mm,
like signing good role players or
okay.
players that could impact their roster.
I think
Okay.
Jim Boylan is the coach that's holding him back. I just gotta say that. I mean, if they fire Jim Boylan, I think this team can at least compete for an eighth or seventh seed.
Yeah, I think last year.
Especially with the weak East that we have, the sixth,
Yeah,
seventh, eighth seeds.
I think last year they shouldn't have fired Fred Hoiberg, even though the Bulls were bad. We kind of expected them to do that. So I think they shouldn't. I think they shouldn't have fired Fred Hoiberg, but they have very many options like David Fisdale or Tom Thibodeau. So they have options to choose.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening. If you made it all the way here, thank you for listening to the Under 24 podcast, and a special thank you to Alvin for joining us on this podcast today.
No
Remember
problem.
we remember we post every Friday on this channel, and we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see y'all next week.